I'm all alone here, but I have football, Formula One, soccer, and many more sports to keep me company. Hello and welcome back to The House That Happens, sponsored by Shoey's Bar and Grill, the only place to be in suburban Etobicoke. Voted 4 times the best dive bar in all the GTA. You know it's number 1 in our hearts. The Phoenix rising from the ashes. Hello, my name is Andrew Milani, and I'm not at Shoey's today. I'm at home. No Cruz on the show today, unfortunately. He is resting from what I imagine was a pretty eventful MCM, Matt Cruz Memorial. I'm sure he'll be around next week to tell us all about it, but for now, I suppose he has a heavy head, as they say. I'm here to take you through what happened last week. As always, we begin with shoutouts. So, first of all, shout out to the Formula One exhibit at 1 Yonge Street downtown. I went with my girlfriend Radhika last Monday. I took the day off work, and it was fantastic. I'm happy I went basically a couple weeks before it shut down. It's a tremendous 3-hour experience. Takes you all through the history of Formula One, pre-Formula One even, like the beginning of motor racing in the late 1800s. It takes you through like Bernie Ecclestone and like all the significant figures, through some of the big rivalries too. So there's a little thing for the Verstappen-Hamilton rivalry. There's another one for the Nigel Mansell, Nelson Piquet rivalry, I guess through, was it the 87 season? My favorite part was just seeing all the helmets. I love the kind of the art and, you know, the kind of aesthetics that go into it. I thought that was really cool. Some great visual presentations as well. They give you the headphones, kind of like when you go to the museum, and it kind of syncs up with some videos that you see. Also, one thing, and there's a thing, it talks about all the Formula One movies, a little, I suppose they're hyping up the Brad Pitt F1 movie that's coming out soon too. But I did not know Al Pacino was in a Formula One movie in the 70s, directed by Sidney Pollack. I forgot the name of the movie. It was like the character's name, but I was just like, what? Like, when did this happen? Obviously, I knew about Rush. Like, I saw the movie in the theater. Grand Prix, kind of a famous, the first, I guess, big Formula One movie, the one in the 60s. Still got to see that. But if you have time, I highly recommend this F1 exhibit. If you're a fan, even if you have vague interest in Formula One, I think it's tremendous. They do a great job breaking down the technology, the history, everything in the sports. There's just one cringy little thing where they talk about the car of 2050 for Formula One. They're like, oh, it's all electric and it looked like garbage. But other than that, I thought it was tremendous. Check it out if you can. Shout out James Earl Jones. He passed away this week at the age of 93. What's there to say about James Earl Jones? The voice of Darth Vader, the voice of Mufasa, the voice of CNN. Has an EGOT, so that's Academy Award, Emmy, Grammy, and a Tony Award. Whatever, honorary recipient of one of those awards, but still, I mean, that's such a small club. You got to give him props for that. One of my favorite actors, also Field of Dreams, so sports, a baseball reference there. We lost the legend. That's all there is to say. And we wish the best to him and his family. And his legacy continues on. Shout out Mike Gardner and Lanny McDonald. Lanny McDonald will be passing on the torch of the voting committee of the Hall of Fame, the president of that, to Mike Gardner. The Hockey Hall of Fame, obviously the biggest boys club in all sports and all these Hall of Fames. So that will continue. So Mike, keep that torch alive and keep these guys coming in the hall. And lastly, shout out to the Humber Hawks. Their season has been quite successful throughout most of the sports, I would say. Called women's rugby yesterday. That was a tremendous day in Brampton. Humber couldn't get that last one against Durham, but showed up nonetheless. Humber baseball off to a very good start as well. And I will be calling softball today. Currently, the team is 5-1, going up against St. Clair. You'll know after this how they did, but gonna wish them the best. And next week, obviously, we will get a take from Cruz, or not his take, but his recap of the MCM. But for now, we will jump into Formula One, where we just finished the Baku City Grand Prix of Azerbaijan, and Charles Leclerc took pole position there. It was an interesting position for him to be in, obviously. Going for that championship now. is a little bit further back of the top two, but he still's got a shot there. Obviously, Kevin Magnuson out for the race. Ollie Behrman in. Excuse me. And the big news coming into the race was that McLaren finally prioritizing Lando. Only took 2/3 of the season, but we finally got there, guys. Good job, McLaren. Good job finally understanding what it takes to win a world championship. But it did not matter because Lando qualified 17th. Could not get through, or he qualified. He did qualify 17th rather, but he was moved up to 17th or to 16th, then 15th because of some penalties. Could not get past Q1 because of a yellow flag, double yellow flags in sector, I believe it was sector 3 on his final hot lap. McLaren was fuming about that, but nothing that could be done. The race itself earlier today was actually quite exciting. Leclerc was leading for most of the race, but Piastri pulled off a move. In that last stint, Leclerc was following, was kind of staying in DRS range for most of the time, could not get the pass done, and then with about 5 laps to go, his tires started to die. All the while, Lando Norris climbing his way through the pack, doing a good job to move into the points, into double-digit points. Verstappen kind of struggling, was behind Perez. Not only did he qualify behind Perez, but in the race was all behind him today. But on that final few laps, I believe it was the second or third last lap, Perez looked like he was trying to get a move done on Leclerc for second after Leclerc kind of his tires had fallen off and he was already out of contention for the win with Piastri. Sainz right behind Perez, sneaks in there, goes into third spot. Perez tries to get a move done, and then Sainz, I guess not realizing that Perez was right beside him, smashes him into the wall, takes them both out of the race. The race finishes under safety car. George Russell moving into third place, Lando into fourth, with the fastest lap as well, and then Verstappen up to fifth. So those two getting a bit of a saving grace, keeping their not just their champion hopes, I guess, like they still do have hope for the championship, but make sure they get those big points to stay ahead of Leclerc and Piastri, I suppose. Alonso in 6th, Albon and Colapinto 7th, double points for Williams. Hamilton 9, had a penalty, started in the pit lane, was kind of 16th the whole time, but manages to finish in the points. And Ollie Behrman in his second race, this time for Haas, finishing in 10th place, one spot ahead of his teammate Nico Hulkenberg. 4 DNFs, Perez and Sainz, like I said before. Stroll was having some issues, and then Tsunoda was the first one out of the race. Azerbaijan, not usually one of my favorite tracks, but this one was actually pretty eventful. I actually enjoyed it here this morning, despite Ferrari not being able to take the win. But you go to the driver's standings now. Leclerc 78 points behind Verstappen with 7 points to go, or 7 races to go, so he's still in there. Obviously, a big there they wasn't able to get the win. McLaren just faster today. Although you got to wonder if Ferrari had pitted maybe just a couple laps later, there would have been some more life in those hard tires that Leclerc had going down to the race, down at the end of the race. If he could have maybe put up a little bit more of a fight. But either way, congratulations, Oscar Piastri, his second win of his career, second of the championship. Lando Norris, still in second, 254 points to Max Verstappen's 313. So that gap now under 60 points for the Drivers' Championship, 59 to be precise. And you look at constructors, McLaren now taking over number one, 76 points. They're now 20 points ahead of Red Bull. Ferrari just 51 points behind McLaren for number one. So it's going to be a 3-horse race right down to the end. 7 races to go, like I said before. This should be a tremendous season, tremendous finish. This is all you wanted and more, really, for a Formula One championship. The most competitive, the most open it's been since, what was it, 2003, when there was the 3-way fight between Ferrari, McLaren, and Williams. I'm absolutely excited. Next weekend, more racing. It's going to be in Singapore. It's going to be an early one or a late one, depending on how you view it. I will be watching that one more than likely on tape delay. I've tried doing the stay up all night to try and watch it, and it just ruins your whole weekend. So that's going to be very exciting. And then after they're basically off for another month before the United States Grand Prix in Austin, COTA, Circuit of the Americas. And that's going to be back-to-back that in Mexico and Brazil, so it's going to be 3 in a row. And then it's going to be another 3-week break, essentially, before we get Vegas and Qatar and Abu Dhabi. So, one more race, then a 3-week break, 3, and then another break, and then 3 back-to-back. So, it feels like a long time, but these are going to come fast and furious. Of course, I'm going to be looking forward to it. Cruise, I can't wait to hear what you guys say about next week. So we'll move this along to the Toronto Argos, and Toronto FC are not low-tier Toronto team report, but, you know, they play in the same spot, so we like to stick them together here at the House That Happens. The Argos were underdogs on Friday night heading into BC, but they managed to pull off the win 33-17 despite all odds, and it was a big win. Chad Kelly, 18 for 28 passing, 268 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, 56 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. So we obviously had a tremendous game. Argos defense holding up. But the interesting thing was Nathan Rourke was pulled at halftime for BC. He was starting to find some momentum going into the halftime of that game. I mean, he didn't have the best stats, but was starting to pull things together, and then they just pull him. And the weird part was that looked like it was just part of the plan for BC. So I don't know what they were doing there. They stuck in a quarterback cold in the second half just because. Obviously, it didn't work. Big win for Toronto. Not great on the road, obviously. And BC is a great home team, so we were thinking for sure that BC would be able to hold on and grab victory. But instead, the Argos grabbed the victory from the jaws of defeat. And this actually puts the Argos in pretty good spot in the standings because Ottawa lost at Hamilton and Montreal only got a tie in Calgary. So Toronto 3 points back of Ottawa for second place now. We've talked about how huge second place in the Eastern Division has been with only a few games left to go. I believe there's only 5 games left on the schedule now for the Argos. Yeah, 5 games left to go on the schedule. 3 points back. It's going to be tough, not impossible. But Ottawa is so tremendous at home. If they can just kind of hold serve, so to speak, they can really put the Argos away here, especially next weekend, Montreal at Ottawa. That's going to be a huge match right there. If Montreal can pull off the win in Ottawa and Toronto gets the win at home next Friday against Hamilton, then we got to race to the finish. But until then, still Ottawa with a little bit of a cushion. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Montreal, the only team in the CFL to clinch a playoff spot. We've talked about this before. They're head and shoulders above the competition of the CFL. The clear favorites. But then again, Toronto was kind of in their spot last year, headed into the playoffs. Can Montreal hang on? Can they get it done in the playoffs? We will have to see. We'll turn this over to the Argos' roommates, the Toronto FC, where they got a 2-1 victory at home. It'd been a long time since they had home victory, but they win 2-1 at home against Austin FC. Jonathan Osorio opening the scoring in the 7th minute, and Kerr scoring the winner in the 30th minute. A very strong first half for the Reds. Wolf for Austin, cutting into that lead late in the 75th minute, but it was just too little, too late. Toronto FC, about 50-50 on possession, lost the shot battle, but they're blocking heavy. Some big saves there by the keeper as well, making sure that the Reds hang on for the win. Now you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference rather. Toronto's still hanging on to 8th spot. 3 points up on DC for 9th, who actually beat them last time out. So that's going to be pretty significant. Both of them with only 5 games left to go. And Toronto, 2 points back of Charlotte for 7th, although Charlotte has a game in hand. So I don't know how great it's going to be for Toronto FC to catch up. It's going to be a tough one. 5 games left, plus that Canadian Championship final against BC, or against Vancouver in BC. Next time out, Toronto is going to be versus Columbus at home. That's going to be on Wednesday. And then at Colorado on Saturday. So 2 games this week could really make or break their playoff standing here. So we'll keep an eye on Toronto FC. going down the road, and we will obviously wish them the best. We will move this to our European soccer roundup. I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty. I'm going to wrap up the whole weekend, next weekend, as it were. Just going to highlight some of the big matches here. So, Tottenham, Arsenal, today on Sunday. Atletico Madrid, Valencia, also today. Those are the two big league matches. And then, of course, we have Champions League starting up this week. Milan versus Liverpool on Tuesday is the big match there. On Wednesday, the big match, Man City versus Inter. So, arguably the best team in England versus the best team in Italy. And then on Thursday, we have Atalanta versus Arsenal. Atalanta won Europa League, the Tier 2 championship, which is how Tier 2 European championship, which is how they moved into Champions League. And they're playing Arsenal, so one of the elite clubs in England. So that should be a fun one to watch out for. And we are very much looking forward to that. We will move this to the WNBA. So the season ends on Thursday. Really just 3 game days left. There's a slate of games today on Sunday, 5 games. Another 4 games on Tuesday. And then the whole league in action on Thursday to wrap things up. So teams with just 2 or 3 games left. Indiana in that 6th seed looks like that's where they're going to finish in the playoffs. Depending on how things shake out, they're either going to play Minnesota or Connecticut. Either way, those are going to be tough matches. A lot of talk right now about whether or not Indiana can pull off any upset in the playoffs. I think it's going to be very tough. I understand they came on strong late in the season, but now the games are starting to settle in. I caught a lot of that Vegas-Indiana game on Friday night, and that really felt like a playoff game. Vegas is starting to rise their heads a little bit. You could really tell, like, defensive first basketball. Indiana managing to keep it a game, but at the end, too little, too late. But first round of the playoffs, best of 3. So there's going to be a chance for an upset there. Big chance. So it's going to be very interesting there. Also, a battle for that last seed. So Chicago kind of falling out. And Washington, or what they did fall out rather. Washington taking control of that 8 seed right now, although they're tied in the standings. And then Atlanta peeking their heads in there. Just a game back of Washington and Chicago. So it's a 3-way battle for that 8 seed. Should be very, very interesting. And we will keep an eye on that for the rest of the season as we enter playoffs. So next week we'll know how that's going to shake out. Next we'll talk about the U.S. Open, where Jannik Sinner defeated Fritz 6-3, 6-4, 7-5 in straight sets to take his second major. Second on hard court in a row also. So it's looking like he's the king of the hard court right now. People are going to ask, is this legit? I mean, we all know the shady circumstances leading to him being allowed to stay in the tournament. Was caught not once but twice for doping, although he seems to get away out because he claimed it was an accident. Don't know how that works out, but I guess the U.S. Open wanted some money. The chatter about that is already cut out, so I don't know how much longer we're going to be talking about this. And I mean, especially, like, he's the obvious favorite for not only the Aussie final, or the Aussie Open early next year, but for the Tour Finals as well in December, which is going to be played in Torino in Italy. If he wins that, and if he especially wins the next Aussie Open, no one's going to be talking about that. We're just going to be talking about how he's the king of the hard court. Although there's a young Spaniard who might have a thing or two to say about that, so we'll keep our eye on that as the season progresses. Next, we will talk a little bit about the NHL. A few things going on this week. So, well, actually, first let's talk about the PWHL. So, 6 teams rather, named, they have official team names now. So we have the Toronto Scepters, the Boston Fleet, the Minnesota Frost, Montreal Victoire, New York Sirens, and the Ottawa Charge. Out of the 6, I like 2, to be honest. I like Montreal Victoire. It's got that little French flavor in there. Their logo's cool, too. It's kind of like a shield with the little fleur-de-lis. And New York Sirens, I like that name, too. The rest could use some work. I mean, Minnesota Frost, Boston Fleet, I like that their logo is basically the Hartford Whalers logo on its side. I think that's pretty cool. Ottawa Charge. Like, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers logo and the Calgary Flames logo had a baby. And it came out looking like crap. That's what it looks like. Toronto Scepters. It just does not roll off the tongue. No one seems to be really impressed by it. It should have been the Toronto Royals. Just go in for it. Like, I don't know. Are they afraid that, like, people are going to complain it's, like, too, like, colonial sounding? Like, Scepters is still associated with that anyway, so I don't know what you get done there. I don't know. Scepters, weird choice. I don't know. And, like, blue and gold as colors to get, like, the light blue and gold. I would have preferred they kind of stuck closer to Leafs or, like, Blue Jays colors. Traditional Toronto colors. I get what they're trying to do, introduce gold, you know, their own little flair into there, but not the biggest fan, although we're still going to be cheering for the Toronto Scepters as the season goes on at their new home, Coca-Cola Coliseum. We talked a little bit about the supposed secret training session between Nathan MacKinnon, Mitch Marner, Crosby, a bunch of the guys. We thought it was in Muskoka, but turns out they were training in Colorado. And the line that couldn't be stopped, we talked about it. Marner, MacKinnon, Crosby. Could this be a potential Four Nations Cup line, an Olympic line? We'll have to see. 2 righties on there makes that interesting, but we'll have to see. MacKinnon also sticks up for Marner, saying he's one of the best players in the league. I like that he's defending his guy there. I've said this before on the show. I think Marner's going to have a big year. I don't know how this contract situation is going to work, though. I suspect that Marner's agent is going to take this right up to the post, right up to next summer. As agent Aaron Ferris has a reputation for doing that, so I don't think we're going to see a Nylander situation where he signs at mid-year. I'm expecting big things from him this year, though. So we'll have to see. There's also some rumors about Tavares not coming back to Toronto because of his legal battle with the Canadian government, essentially. I'm not buying that completely. We'll have to see. Nick Robertson signed back with a 1-year deal, $875,000. I'm expecting him to be traded, though. He obviously did the smart thing. You don't want to be sitting around without a contract when training camp starts, because if the Leafs can't find a trade partner, then he's screwed, and it's going to really hurt his trade value. But I'm still expecting a trade to happen during training camp. If not, I'd be pretty shocked, but I'd be pleasantly surprised, as I want to see what Robertson is able to do with Craig Berube. But the big news items this week with the Leafs. Yanni Hakanpää finally, his deal official with the Maple Leafs, 1 year, $1.47 million. It was originally reported as a 2-year deal, downgraded to 1, I imagine, because that's some of the injury concerns. But either way, he's here. I'm excited to see what he can do. Hope he can stay healthy. That's obviously the most important thing. But even bigger, Max Pacioretty, yes, the former Habs captain, signs a PTO, and it's expected that he will sign a full-time contract after the Leafs clear out some cap space. Whether that's Connor Timmins, whether that's Ryan Reeves, whether that's David Camp, whether that's Calle Jarnkrok, remains to be seen. Jarnkrok and Camp have some trade protection, but the Leafs just under 1.1 million under the cap or over the cap, and Timmins' contract is 1.1, so that looks like the obvious one. Though we will have to see. Training camp opens up soon. Of course, we will have a lot more to talk about for hockey and how that happens as things go on. We're just getting started, and I can't wait. One thing I noticed too is that, so I think Pacioretty, I'd imagine they'd give him a shot in the top 6 first, with either probably Tavares on the second line, if I had to guess. I think things are going to shake out more with him playing on the third line. I know some people are kind of freaking out either way. I don't know. I think this is like a decent signing. It's like worst case, he plays, a handful of games and we never hear from him again. Best case, I'd like to say 30 goals. That's a little bit of a tall order, but something in the mid-20s. I don't imagine he's going to be getting top power play time. But I mean, if he plays with Domi on former Habs third line for the Leafs, that could catch magic. They could catch fire right there. A little bit of that old Habs chemistry. So we'll see how that shakes out there during the season. The other big thing is whether or not he's going to wear 67. I know some fans were having fun with this. I would just say for him to go for it. Although I suspect that someone's going to be in his ear and like if he's caught in a bad picture or something, like then he's going to be stuck as a meme for the rest of his career or the rest of the season at least. So I don't know. I suspect he won't go through with 67 because of the fear of like being the star of Twitter or something for a day. Someone's going to be in his ear saying don't do that. We'll see though. We'll see. I would just tell him to go for it. Just wear 67. Also, a number of PTOs got signed. So Pro Hockey Rumors, they're tracking all the players that have signed PTOs lately. Or I guess just PTOs heading into the season. So Jakub Vrana back with the Capitals. This one was signed a month ago, but he's back with the Capitals on a PTO. Tanner Pearson with the Golden Knights. Sammy Blais with the Canucks. I'm just reading some of the significant ones. Tyler Johnson trying out with the Bruins. Steven Lorentz, who just recently won a Stanley Cup, will be trying out with the Leafs. Tyson Barrie trying out in Calgary. That's an interesting one. Michael Hutchinson trying out in New Jersey. They need some goalie depth. Ottawa signing Kalen Addison and Nikolai Kulemin to PTOs. Addison's an interesting one. Young player looking for a chance. And Kulemin, it's been a while since he's been in the league. He's getting up there in age, but I know he's got a son playing under 16 AAA, I believe, in Toronto. So he's has a reason to want to stick close here. Travis Dermott, the former Leaf, signing a PTO in Edmonton. Sam Gagner signing a PTO in Carolina. Kyler Yamamoto signing a PTO in Utah. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare back with Avalanche on a PTO. Mark Pysyk signing a PTO with the Ducks. And Matt Martin signing a PTO with Islanders. That one's pretty interesting considering he has been there full-time there before. So it's going to be interesting. We'll keep an eye on that as the season goes on, or as the off-season goes on, and we'll keep track with all the training camp news. We'll move this into the NFL, where Week 1 wrapped up last week. I, of course, took our Week 1 pool. I had 9 of the picks right, 2 Cruz's, and Kevin picked 7. The Seattle-Denver game ended up being a push, so none of us won there. I did very good in the late window, Cruz and Kevin doing better in the early window. A few of the games I lost on the spread by half a point, so Vegas doing their job there. So a few things to keep track of from Week 1. So defenses catching up to offense is a big one. So we talked about, or Cruz was saying how you wanted to take the over in Week 1, but a lot of the unders coming through in Week 1. So, like I said, the defense is catching up to the offense. It's always a cycle with this sort of thing, a little bit of back and forth. Offenses were in charge there, but it looks like the defenses have caught up. A lot of low-scoring games, but not all of them. Specifically, the Saints blowing out Carolina 47-10. I was kind of pumping up Carolina a little bit. I didn't think they'd be as bad, but they were bad. That seemed to be the go-to pick. A lot of people picked that for their Survivor. And if you picked that, I mean, you did pretty well, obviously. I would have picked the Vikings if I was in a Survivor League. But if you chose the Bengals, oof. They choke, losing 16-10 to the New England Patriots. Just that Cincinnati offense really showing nothing there. And 43% of Survivor picks eliminated Week 1 because of that, including a few people that I know. Absolutely nuts. And I mean, the Bengals are going to be in big trouble now. They're going into Kansas City today. Could be 0-2. We all picked them for a wild card spot, but they got a long way up to go, especially if they start off 0-2. I mean, I think it happened today in Kansas City, but it's going to be extremely tough. Atlanta, another team that all three of us picked, losing to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's defense all over Atlanta. Kirk Cousins not looking very agile on that on that ACL or MCL that he tore. Excuse me. And Pittsburgh's defense getting it done. I mean, all field goals basically scored for the Steelers, but all of them were put in good field position by that defense, forcing turnovers all over that Atlanta front line. Pittsburgh's defense could keep them in a playoff race this year. They're 1-0. They're top of their division right now. Who would have thought that? But it's going to be very interesting. If they can figure out their offense, figure out their quarterback situation, Pittsburgh, I don't know if they're going to be a Super Bowl contender or even a real contender to win their division, to be honest. But they could steal a wild card spot and maybe even pull off a first-round upset. We'll see. Raiders trust their defense and let a game go against the Chargers. Vegas just too afraid to go for it on fourth down in the Chargers' end up kicking it away, and the Chargers win it at home, 22-10. Cover the spread easy. LA, I mean, there's not going to be any world beaters there, but Justin Herbert, a little bit more protection now. He's got 2 good tackles now. J.K. Dobbins appears that they have a run game with him. Their defense, I mean, the Raiders in the biggest test led by Gardner Minshew. But Joe Alt keeping up with Mason Crosby was tremendous to see. You love to see that if you're a Chargers fan. Obviously proving that Harbaugh made the right pick there. We all knew he was going to pick him. And it's making him look like a genius there. Deshaun Watson looked terrible in a big win for the Dallas Cowboys over the Cleveland Browns, 33-17. Cruz, I don't know why you picked the Cleveland Browns in that game. Dallas, I mean, off to a hot start like they usually are. Cleveland, it's going to be a dogfight. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs. It's going to be an uphill battle. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers proving me pretty well. Had a big 37-20 win over Washington last weekend. Jane Daniels looked like the best rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams, a little too much scrambling backwards. You can't do that in the NFL. This isn't college anymore. But Daniels looked like he could do it all. Put 20 points on the board, but Tampa Bay putting up 37, cruising past Washington at home, making me even more confident in my pick that they're going to be not only back in the playoffs, but back winning that division. Giants, I said you should pick the Vikings last weekend for Survivor Pool. And boy, oh boy, they got smashed at home 28-6 by the Vikings. And I mean, the Vikings are no world beaters themselves. They're good. I mean, probably would have been a little bit better with all that bad injury luck. But just all over the Giants. Daniel Jones, maybe the worst starting quarterback in the league. Malik Neighbors looking like a bright spot, though. Especially over Marvin Harrison Jr., who looked especially slow week 1. Kyler Murray not really willing to throw him the ball there, it looked like. Giants, though, they're going to finish last place. They're going to be last in the NFL, and Dable's going to lose his job. And it's going to be Mike Vrabel taking over there. You heard it here first. The Detroit Lions, wearing their light blue, come through in overtime at Ford Field. 26-20 over the LA Rams. Former Lion Matt Stafford. Always interesting when he's back in Motor City. But the Lions pulling off an overtime. Jared Goff getting it done on that drive. He may not be the best quarterback in the league, but he is the right quarterback for that team, obviously. Detroit looking very good. The big favorite here, obviously, for the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say that just yet. I want to see how the season kind of progresses. But Detroit's certainly in the driver's seat. They should still win this division. And looking up from here. Monday Night Football, the 49ers shoot down the Jets. I was the only one on San Fran last weekend, and they made me look good. The Jets, they have problems, man. And San Francisco, just all over them. No CMC, no problem. Aaron Rodgers taken out of the game early. He looked good early on, but then just that 49ers defense, just too much to hang on with, too much to keep up with. And at the end of the day, Jets starting 0-1, and they are an uphill climb. San Fran also could be in big trouble for not reporting their Christian McCaffrey injury. They apparently knew on Friday, at least the replacement knew on Friday, that he was going to be starting in there. and you don't report that, that could be a big fine. It's going to be interesting. I haven't heard anything yet about how that's going to turn out. But Jordan Mason obviously said in the interview that he knew on Friday. San Fran not reporting it. I don't know. Are they getting Kansas City in a way where, the better you are, the rules just don't seem to matter to you? I don't know. But Jordan Mason, huge in that game. 147 yards, 1 touchdown, just proving that San Fran front line is so good. You could argue that the Jets weren't really prepared for him, but, you're going from a big step down there. So, congrats to San Fran for starting off 1-0. The Buffalo Bills killing the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football this week, 31-10 in Miami. I was on I was on Miami for that game. Cruz was right on Buffalo, predicting that the dominance would continue. Miami just only seems to get it done at home, I guess, during the daytime. This one was a primetime game, so the cool air perhaps giving Buffalo a bit of an edge. Josh Allen looked like he had his hand taped up on his non-throwing hand, they were saying, although still was not throwing the ball that much. Wasn't great if you had him in fantasy, but Cook, the running back, James Cook, getting it done. He had 30 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns, and was really the one that led the Bills there to victory. And, of course, the Bills defense hanging on as well, holding Miami back. Although things kind of turned ugly when Tua got injured in the third quarter. Went head first again. You hate to see it. Honestly, I'm starting to get worried for the guy. A lot of people calling for him to retire. This is his third big concussion in a couple years now. And, we'll see what happens from here. But it's a tough blow for the Dolphins. They have Skylar Thompson as their backup quarterback. We'll see what they could do with him. Maybe drop some plays to kind of get them back in the book. But it's going to be an uphill climb now for Miami. I picked him in the wild card. Me and Kevin Pick both picked him in the wild card. Cruz did not. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Dolphins season shakes out from here. That will take us to our Week 2 picks against the spread. I have not received Cruz's picks yet. Hopefully gets them in before 1 o'clock so they are legit. We will see, though. I'll go through my picks, though. First up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens favored by 8 points. I think the Raiders suck. Sorry, Serge. Or the results suck, whatever. Baltimore at home. I think they want to get on this winning column. I'm picking the Ravens against the spread. LA Chargers at the Carolina Panthers. This is a lot of people's survivor pick. A lot of people saying either fade the Patriots, although that would have bit you last week, or fade the Panthers, fade the Giants. Those are the big strategies. Chargers defense was also being picked up on fantasy. Chargers favored by 5 on the road. I think they're going to smack Carolina. Could even be double digits. So I'm going to take the Chargers. New Orleans Saints at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 6.5 at home. I think the Saints are going to come back down to earth. We all know how good the Cowboys are at home. Give me the Cowboys. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. Lions favored by 7.5 at home. I think that spread is way too high. Tampa Bay is a very competent team. They still have those great wide receivers. I don't care if they're getting up there in age. Baker Mayfield's looking solid as ever. Give me the points. Give me Tampa Bay. Indianapolis Colts at the Green Bay Packers. Colts favored by 2.5 on the road. Green Bay obviously without Jordan Love, having to deal with Malik Willis. But they got strong run game. They got strong defense. I'm going to take the home dog. Give me the Packers. Cleveland Browns at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars favored by 3 at home. I talked a lot of shit about Cleveland. I know they got that great defense. But on offense, who's going to get those receivers the ball? Give me Jacksonville at home. San Francisco at Minnesota. San Fran favored by 4.5 on the road. Minnesota, obviously with a big win over the Giants, but this is not the Giants that they're dealing with. I don't care that they're at home this time. Give me the 49ers on the road. Seattle at New England. Seattle favored by 3 points on the road. New England looking for lightning to strike twice. Do I see my team pulling it off and going 2-0? to lead their division? I do not. Give me Seattle 3 points. Or, excuse me, give me Seattle favored by 3. New York Jets at the Tennessee Titans. Jets favored by 4 on the road. Tennessee, another game on the road for the Jets. This is not going to be as hard as San Fran. Tennessee, I don't quite believe in them. I'm not a big Will Levis guy. They got some good weapons, but I think the Jets finally get into the win column here. I think they're going to do it by a few points. Give me the Jets on the road. Giants at the Washington Commanders. Washington only favored by 1.5 points here. I don't know how that spread is not insanely higher. Easy pick for me. Give me the Commanders. LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. This one's a pick'em. This one kind of moving a little bit. Give me the Rams. I think they're going to be hungry for a win. I don't love the Cardinals. So easy pick for me. LA. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos. Pittsburgh favored by 2.5 on the road. Denver's defense not looking great. Pittsburgh looked like monsters last week. I don't know if they're going to have a similar result, though. I'm still confident in their team and that defense. We'll see what Justin Fields is able to do. TJ Watt, still my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to be an animal. I think he's going to make the offense for Denver really have to work for things. Give me Pittsburgh on the road. Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 6 points at home. Bengals doing a lot of trash talking this week, saying that Xavier Worthy is an overrated rookie. He's just fast. Cincinnati also saying they're the real team to beat in the AFC. It's classic bulletin board material there for the Chiefs. I think they're going to kill them. Give me the Chiefs at home. The Sunday nighter, the Chicago Bears at the Houston Texans. Texans favored by 6.5. I think this one could be a bloodbath. Houston clearly the favorite here. Give me them at home. And last but not least, the Atlanta Falcons at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles only favored by 6 points. I don't know how that spread is not closer to double digits, but it's going to be easy pick for me. I'm going to take the Eagles. I think they're going to smoke them by 10 to 12 points. So that will do it for our football segment. We'll obviously keep track of everything in week 2. Now we'll take us to baseball. MLB, where Bo Bichette is back, but with the Buffalo Bisons. So could see him coming back for the last few games. If nothing else, it's just good to see him back in form, back in shape. Will he stick around with the team next year? Is he going to be used as a trade chip or what? I don't know. I suspect he's going to be back, but you never really know with these things. You never know what's in Ross Atkins' mind, so there we go. Vladdy also became the youngest Blue Jay to 500 RBIs, so another notch on his belt. Obviously still up there in batting in the American League. Fell to 6th in OPS, 939. I imagine he's still going to be a top 5 guy in the MVP. Toronto getting a weekend win in their series against the St. Louis Cardinals, another team that's out of it. Too little, too late for them, I suppose. Although the big news, Shohei Ohtani crawling closer and closer to the first 50-50 season in MLB history, is currently 3 home runs away and only 2 stolen bases from the incredible milestone, all while having a 983 OPS. This guy's the best player in the league. Is he having the best season in the league this year? No, that would still be Judge. But he's clearly the best player in the National League, and he should run away with that award. I don't care if he's only playing DH. Got to give him that hardware. You look at the standings. New York now with a 2-game lead over the Baltimore Orioles, including 2 in the loss column. So Orioles running out of time. Just 2 weeks left to go in the season. I believe it's 13 games on the dot, basically. So we're going to keep track of that. Cleveland, a 3-game lead over the Kansas City Royals. So Kansas City making this interesting late, but are they just running out of runway here? 3 losses in that column there. Astros, 4.5 up on Seattle. It looks like they almost have that one wrapped up. Phillies, 8 games up on the Braves and the Mets. Tied for that last wild card spot, those 2 teams. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Milwaukee, 11 games up on the Cubs, so they should clinch that division this week. Dodgers 3.5 up on the Padres. Arizona a game and a half back of the Padres for third. So the Padres peeking their head back a little bit in there, but the Dodgers still should win the division. Although I'm not sure about the Dodgers' playoff chances with that pitching. They got the hitting, but when it comes to best on best pitching, I don't know if they have it. I suspect they might lose in the division series if I had to pick right now. But the Braves and Mets, like I said before, tied. And Arizona only a game up on those teams. So Arizona could even fall out of the playoffs late in this season. Once you move to the American League, Detroit and Seattle, 2.5 back of Minnesota for that final playoff spot. Both of them kind of catching fire here. Boston, a game back of those two teams. Looks like they're falling out. Me and Cruz, of course, are not going to cry for them. So it's really nothing on our minds. That's going to be it for baseball. Going to keep track. Just a couple weeks to go, like I said. Obviously, keeping it short here on the House That Happens this week. We'll get a full show next week. I'm sure Cruz has got a bunch of things to say about the MCM. I'm sure it was a great time. Looking forward to hearing about that. No trivia this week either. No gospel. I might have something about the papaya rules coming up for McLaren. But like I said, keeping it short, keeping it sweet. We will be back at Shoey's next week. I believe it will be a Saturday once again. Thank you for listening. Give us a like if you really liked us. Subscribe. Follow us on social media. And yeah, my name is Andrew Milani. Recording at my home, but obviously sponsored by Shoey's Bar and Grill. And what do we do here? We keep the vibe alive. You can find The House That Happens on Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeart Radio, Player FM, Samsung, Podchaser, Boomplay, YouTube, and SoundCloud. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at The House That Happens, and follow us on Twitter at House Happens. You can also shoot us an email at thehousethathappens@gmail.com.